Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this live webinar series on the Legal Expert Guide to Data Breaches and Ransomware Attack in the Southeast Asia. My name is Ng Woan Na, and I'm the Regional Legal Advisor and representative of both ASEAN and China Desks based in our DFDL Bangkok office, and would be very pleased to be the moderator for today's discussion. And just a brief introduction on DFDL, we are a full legal and tax advisory firm based in Southeast Asia and an ASEAN-born firm with nearly 30 years of history. We have developed dedicated regional and sector-based key practice group with, of course, technology and compliance being one of them. So our discussion for today will focus on the prevalence of data breach incidents and the ransomware attacks in Thailand. And as all of us may be aware, incidents on this front have increased at an escalating speed as a result of a shift of global consumers' usage towards online services, and with companies collecting an increasing volume of data contributed primarily as the result of COVID-19. So it is critical now more than ever for businesses and consumers like us to take data security seriously. So a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. You can post your questions at any time in the right-hand Q&A window. We will do our best to read and consider all questions, but depending on the amount of time and questions we have, we will unfortunately not be able to address all of them. Of course, you're very welcome to email our speaker for any further specific question. Now, I would now like to introduce our speaker for today, Kun Noppadon Treephetchara, also known as Ton. He is a senior legal advisor based in our Bangkok office, focuses on litigation in civil and commercial disputes. Ton also has a wealth of experiences in advising some of our key clients on data protection compliance. Great having you here today, Ton. Thank you very much for participating in today's session.
Okay, thank you very much, Mana, for your introduction.
So now let's kickstart our session for today.
Okay.
So in the context of your jurisdiction, Thailand, please can you share with us in terms of the level of growing prevalence of ransomware attack in Thailand, the top harms resulted from data breach, and also industries most commonly affected by such incidents. Of course, you can draw your reference through your advisory experiences or any data published by the Thai local authority as well.
Okay. Actually, based on Thailand, right, a recent study commissioned by Kaspersky, a global security and digital privacy company, report that in Thailand has over around 20 million entries of cyber threats incurred last year, 2020. It's being around 28.4% of internet users. More recently, according to their Kaspersky security network in Q2 quarter two of this year, right? Their independent research also indicated cyber threats in Q2 is totaling around 7.4 million incidents. It would increase around 20.7%. According to the report, it seems like only 25% of the company. So why in Thailand said that they were confident about cyber security measure that they have in place. For the top harm result of data breach, arise from the data breach could be widely ranged from the destruction of database, leaking of personal data, theft of properties, including data and intellectual properties, and other consequential damage as a result of operational disruption. Especially from business perspective, cyber threats could potentially lead to impact in the multiple dimensions, including loss of credibility, reputation damage, economic loss, increase of cost, and loss of revenues. Almost of the commonly industry that would be affected from the database incident in Thailand is like top industry that are affected from the ransomware are healthcare sector, public sectors, including consumer product sectors, and banking and finance. Recently this year, there was report of serious unusual payment through credit card and debit card, which was expected to be incurred as a result of ransomware attack. Yes.
Thank you, Ton, for sharing this information. So indeed, security incident, be it minor or major, it can be devastating to organizations and leading as what you mentioned, a multiple dimension of losses, including the irreparable reputational damage and possibly also a loss of customers and or trust. So from this perspective, please can you share with us in terms of the development of governing laws regulating data breach incidents in Thailand? Is there any overarching data breach reporting legislation?
Okay, sure. Actually, in Thailand, we have the we call the Personal Data Protection Act. That's like PDPA, right? We will say we will refer as the PDPA. The PDPA, which was established around May 2019, but there are some several postponements, and the act will be full enforced in June next year. The PDPA also it defines the definition of the personal data. That means any information relating to the person, which enables the identification of such persons, whether directly or indirectly, but not include information of the deceased person in particular. In addition, the PDPA also defines the data controllers, who is a person or a jurisdiction person having the powers and duties to make decisions regarding the collection, use, disclose of the personal data. In addition, the PDPA also defines the security measures for maintaining the personal data. Moreover, to the PDPA, there are several sector-specific laws containing the provision relating to the personal data, including the Credit Information Business Act, the Communicable Disease Act, or the Telecommunication Business Act. This is the example for the governing law in Thailand.
Thanks, Ton, for this very high-level response from the legal domain. So from the information that you have presented, we understand that PDPA is the law governing, the main law governing data breach incidents in Thailand, and the full enforcement of this legislation is expected to take place in 1st of June 2022. And in addition to this PDPA, we also have several sector-specific law containing provisions relating to protection of personal data in Thailand. And of course, we know that cyber criminals, they do not discriminate, and we are seeing as well more and new sophisticated forms of attack emerge regularly. So practically, how should an organization respond to internal and external breach incidents? Can you share with us some of the top cybersecurity best practices?
Okay, actually based on the PDPA, right, that impose two different tiers of like a notification when the data breach or leak. This is a notification requirement of any occurrence of the personal data breach, depending on the extent of risk involved of such breach. The first one is data controller is required to notify the breach and remedy measures to the data subject without delay if the breach is likely to result in the high risk to the right and freedom of a person. And the second requirement, the data controller is required to notify the we call the committee, Personal Data Protection Committee. It is a regulator of PDPA for the any personal data breach without delay. And this is a requirement that the data controller should notify within 72 hours after having become aware of it, unless such breach is unlikely to result in a risk to the high and freedom of a person. In any case, the notifications and the exemption to the notification shall be made in according with the rules and procedure set forth by the PDPC, the committee. As the same while the notification requirement under the PDPA also apply to the data processor, where they must also notify the data controller of any incident of the personal data breach. So this is a legal requirement, right? But for the non-legal requirement, the most of efficiency practice to suppress cybersecurity threats require three essential factors: person factor, system factor, and technology factors. Accordingly, the important step for corporate to begin implementing any IT practice in their organization will require, number one, identification of the personal data and processing activities of the organization. Number two, the risk assessment and threat in that identification. And number three, design operational and technical solution to reflect the condition of the organization, such as we have the access control and authorization, right? Maybe use limit the username and password and access the permission of the person who can reach the personal data. Yes.
Thanks, Ton, for sharing with us some of these practical and useful suggestions on both legal and also technical solutions. So moving to my next and also the final question for this session, and this relates to in the case of transfer of data from Thailand to other countries. Can you discuss some of the precautionary measures which organizations can take to better prepare for such transactions in order to prevent any potential international data breach incidents?
Okay, sure. Actually, under the PDPA, in the event that the data controller or the data processor will transfer any personal data to a foreign country outside Thailand, right? The data controller shall ensure the adequate of the data protection standard of the destination country, expect in the following circumstance. Examples, if the law compliant in the law, right? If it can transfer and or receive the consent from the data subject is also transferred to the other country outside Thailand. However, PDPA also provide the exemptions to the protection standard assurance in case of the transfer of the data to the affiliate company. In the event that the data controller or the data processor would like to transfer any personal data to any entity in a foreign country who is an affiliate, just limit only the affiliate company or the other company in the same group to jointly the business. The data controller can establish we call abiding corporate rule or BCR to ensure the adequate protection of the sending and transferring of the personal data between the group entity. Effectively, the BCR binding corporate rule shall be certified and reviewed and approved by the Committee of the Personal Data Protection per the condition prescribed in the PDPC notification. By the way, as of now, such notification has not yet been encashed.
Thank you, Ton, for sharing these high-level inputs and also valuable inputs on this topic. So now we will move on to our Q&A session, and let's go take a few minutes to go through some of them, and we'll see what we have at this stage. Yeah. So Ton, to what extent does the PDPA applies to entities incorporated under foreign laws? Will a company incorporated in the EU, for example, be subject to PDPA's obligations? It's one of the questions which I think relevant to what you have just explained.
Yep. Okay. Actually, the data protection obligation under PDPA, right, is cover all data processing in Thailand and are involved with the personal data of Thai data subject, regardless of whether they are incorporated under Thai law or not, and whether they are residents or have a business present in Thailand. This extraterritorial scope of the PDPA represents a significant wide range of protection of the data subject right.
Thank you, Ton. We have one more question from the audience, and let me see. Okay, so Ton, because you mentioned that the PDPA has yet to come fully into force. So because of this, could the data subject, even though there's no full enforcement yet, could data subject file any dispute against corporation on the ground of PDPA violation, even though there's no full enforcement yet?
Yep. Actually, at this moment, right, no, cannot mention the PDPA for file any lawsuits under PDPA because of until effective of PDPA, right, around June next year, the data subject cannot establish any claim based on PDPA violation. However, in order to avoid any potential dispute or legal risk on the organization, I recommend that all of the data controller and the data processor is highly advised to implement all necessary measures to prepare until the effective date of the law. However, we should be aware the violation of the other laws, as I mentioned in the specific sector in the first question, right? In the second question, that which may be concerns in case of the collection of personal data is illegal, such as no authority to do so, the data subject or the injured person may file a complaint to claim a compensation under tort claims or wrongful act claim.
Thank you very much, Ton, for this insightful, yet it's a short but yet insightful discussion. So it is now the end of our webinar. So it goes without saying that data breach response plan, it has become a critical component of doing business in this modern era. So for companies who have yet to create one or need a fresh one, we hope this session will be a useful tool and that you will find some useful suggestion, key consideration and needed attention when it comes to creating a new set of plan or refining an existing plan for the purpose of improving data security posture. So if you have any related question, please do not hesitate to reach out to Ton, our speaker, or myself by emails as indicated on this page. And this session has been recorded and will also be available at our DFDL website and social media. We thank you for your attention, and it is very honored to have all of you in participating in today's webinar. Thank you. Thank you, Ton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay.